am so honored to have Karl Anthony with me today. Okay. Um, I needn't speak no further. I'll let you introduce yourself, Karl.
Okay. Hi, Louisa. How you doing? Louisa's there, and hi, Margaret. So this is going to be fun. This is my second one in 2 days, and hey, I'm Karl Anthony. I have Fire Team Canine Dog Training Substack publication, and I write about dogs. I write about dog training. I'm a dog trainer. I'm a nurse. I'm a veteran. I'm a dog trainer. I've done a lot of things. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And I live with epilepsy. I said yesterday on my thing, I don't have any hair because I've worn so many hats. but we're here today to talk about. We're going to talk about PTSD, veterans, first responders, all that stuff. But we're going to sneak in some stuff about dogs and how dogs help and support us. So, yeah, that's why I'm here today, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, thank you so much for having me join you.
I'm going to apologize to everybody up front because I am experiencing PTSD right now. And so I want to just remain focused on the conversation. Anybody that's coming in, please just understand that I just want to stay focused on the conversation. And this is difficult for me. And so you'll understand where I'm coming from shortly. So Karl, what is PTSD? What it is that individuals experience intrusive memories. They experience nightmares, hypervigilance, avoidance, and emotional numbing. Okay. And in the United States, approximately 3.5% of individuals experience PTSD each year, with about 9% experience it over a lifetime. Okay. Women have a higher lifetime prevalence, 9.7% in comparison to men, 3.6. Okay. I want to talk about the groups that are affected by PTSD. Okay. These groups include military, veterans, and first responders, survivors of sexual and physical assault, victims of domestic violence or child abuse, refugees and displaced persons, survivors of natural disasters or accidents, healthcare professionals and caregivers, marginalized populations, the LGBTQ plus, and it affects a lot more people than we think. Would you like to shed light on all of this?
Yeah, I think one of the I mean, I live in a few of those communities, right? Like I'm a veteran, right? I'm a nurse. That's two. I live with epilepsy, so I've experienced trauma from that perspective too, as waking up after seizures and not being under control and ending up in an ambulance so many times in the emergency room over the years. So I get it from the patient's perspective. I get it from a variety of different areas. But at the same time, I work in that world too, right? So I am a healthcare professional that supports people that are living with challenges with, PTSD and stress and operational stress injuries and all of that stuff. I think one of the things that's really important to understand about post-traumatic stress disorder is that it can be something that occurs or happens or that people take on after one experience, right? But it can also be something that people take on after many, many, many experiences over their lives. But also, I think it's really important to understand too, is that it's something that people live with. Some people can live with it for a very long period of time, and some people can live with it and then shift into something that's called post-traumatic growth, and then they gain resiliency and they grow through the whole process. So I try to do my best in understanding all of that, because I know that it's very easy for us to become our diagnosis, right? And what I mean by that is if a doctor or a psychologist or psychiatrist says something like, you have PTSD. Well, does that mean I have PTSD for the rest of my life? It may or may not, right? It may be that I live with PTSD sometimes, and I might have some waves that come and go, right? But I know in my personal experience, I was treated for PTSD for a number of years, and I don't know what's going. Is that your computer that's beeping or mine? That's my ADHD brain. Squirrel. but it's becoming that. I think that's one prevalent thing that happens in our world is people become their diagnosis, which is very easy to do, and it keeps people stuck. And that's part of the conversation I want to have today. And it's not shedding light on their experience, but it's something that I think is really important because I know there's lots of support out there, and there's lots of things that we can do, and there's lots of community-based organizations and all of that. But if we get stuck, it just gets worse and worse and worse, right? So that's
Absolutely.
that's an important piece of the conversation.
Perfect. Now, one thing that struck out to me, something you said, post-traumatic growth. Now, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I talk about that from personal experience. So when we experience post-traumatic stress and our body and our brain and our mind and our body doesn't understand the difference between physical, emotional, spiritual, and what's the other one? Physical, emotional, spiritual, mental stress, right? It's just stress, and it all adds up over time. So if we don't get help, if we don't talk about it, if we don't move our body, if we don't eat well, if we don't sleep well, if you don't do all the things that we need to do to shift and change that experience that we have, then we'll just keep living in that forever, right? But
Right.
what happens in our experiences if we're attached to people and we're exposed to things and read books and watch videos and get a dog that can help us through things, um, then all of a sudden we shift from like I like to talk about this in the growth spectrum. Like we end up in a ditch, but then somebody reaches in and helps us out. Like we have to be willing to grab that hand and be pulled out. And in that process, we can grow through the experience that we've had thus, like leading up to that point, right? And
Yes.
that post traumatic growth is like resilience, right? It means that we've grown through our experiences, and now we're not better for it, but we've recovered, we've become stronger, and now that we like that stuff is in the past, right? It doesn't mean it
Right.
was never happened to us. It happened
Right.
and it
Right.
impacted us, but we've now grown and we've become something different because of it. It's like the what is it? The caterpillar that becomes the butterfly, right? Without the
Absolutely.
stress, right? It
Absolutely.
can't become something else.
Right. Well, I just want to share one experience with you as an example
Mhm.
of the uh, the trauma that I've been through. Now that I'm retired, I have to sit in all of this. Okay, I have time to just think about it, all of it. The trauma, because Father's Day is coming up, and it's triggering me because my father was such a horrible human being.
Mhm.
Okay, that's triggering me. Okay, you know, all the physical and verbal abuse telling me I'm never going to be nothing. I'm going to be just like my mother that was institutionalized because she had schizophrenia. And the first thing I think to myself, if you knew she was ill, why would you even why would you even go there? What you should do is uplift someone like that. If they come
Mhm.
into your presence and they're troubled some kind of way, how can I help you? You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Help them lift their load up. And then you're going to take advantage of a mentally ill person? What? Okay, okay. I'm gonna move on. Okay, see what I'm sitting in? I'm
Mhm.
sitting in this and I'm angry as we get closer and closer to Father's Day. And this is okay. But from that, this is who I am now. Okay. I refuse to be this person, but I'm gonna tell you, I am that person. And and
Mhm.
and not because I wanted to be, because I was shaped and molded into this person.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that. And I'm like, oh my God, how can I reverse this? Because I don't want to become this horrible person. Okay. I got to channel this energy in a way that's going to be uplifting, motivate others, not to tear people down. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I can easily tear somebody down with my words.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what have I done? I'm this monster, and I don't want to be that. Okay. So that's why I channel the energy and doing something positive. And at the end of the day, I can sleep very well knowing that I made some kind of difference. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah. I
that's
get it. Yeah.
about.
I get it. Man, I used to have nightmares just about every night, for many, many, many years. Waking up in a complete sweat. I'd have to change the sheets in the bed and everything else. And then there was two nightmares that I had, and they were related to living with epilepsy, right? So as a soldier, I went to Bosnia. I started having seizures in Bosnia. I got dumped from the military. That was another whole experience that added to that whole experience, right? But then these seizures that I've had over the years, I'm lucky to, like, by the grace of God, I'm still alive. I totally believe that. I had hands on me many times in my life, and there's a reason why I'm here, right? God saved me many times. I didn't know that until a couple of years ago, and then I finally realized, like, okay, yes, like it's been here with me the whole time. But so I can spare you all the details of the seizures that I've had and the places that I've had them, and being inches away from death, honestly. But the nightmares were related to all of that, right? Waking up, so in my nightmare, waking up in darkness in like a crowded, dark streets where there's traffic everywhere, people honking their horns, throwing things at me, and me trying to navigate that whole system. Those continued, like there's that one, and then there was another one that was somewhat similar, but those nightmares continued for years and years and years until I finally decided that I needed to talk about this. I needed to tell people that I live with epilepsy, because I was so shamed and embarrassed and all of that stuff, and I didn't want that to impact my career, my life in any way. But what it was doing was holding me back in so many different ways. I decided to start talking about it. And then I talked more and I talked more, and then I accessed various different resources, and I found a community of people that understood me. And then suddenly the nightmares started to go away.
That, that's amazing. And when I found you on Substack, you were on Christy. I can't remember
Christy
everybody.
Keller. Christy
Yeah,
Keller.
thank you. When I saw that, I'm like, yes. It was like you were calling for me, from the universe. And yes, I was captivated. And I like,
Mm,
I got to get with this brother because because I'm suffering and you understand. And see, I'm gonna tell you, I still have nightmares about this one specific other uh thing here, which is, I was in Israel, okay, flat out.
mm,
And I had just got off the plane, okay, from the United States. So that's like a 24-hour flight, okay? I was exhausted. You've ever fly internationally, you're going
mm,
in between time zones, okay?
mhm,
And Israel is like 24 hours ahead of the United States. So when I get in, I went to sleep, okay? And all of a sudden I heard somebody banging on the door. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, we have a steel door. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I went to the door, and this I don't know what she was. Don't matter. Sergeant. Why you didn't answer the door? I'm like, excuse me, I just got off the plane. We have zero tolerance here. You have 15 minutes to acknowledge your existence. Might as well, because over there, the sirens
mhm.
go off. The
Oh
mortar's
yeah.
coming from Gaza. So you're gonna have to find somewhere to, you know,
Hmm.
get covered. So I'm like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I just got here, lady. She's, I'm like, oh my God. And so I still have nightmares. I wake up in the morning and I can still hear somebody pounding on the door. And I wake up, my heart is beating and everything. Because when you overseas, you have to be on 24-hour notification.
Yeah.
If anything go off, you got to answer in 5 minutes. If you don't, they'll come and knock your door in.
Hmm.
Okay, they don't play. They have their, because when you're overseas, the State Department is responsible for the Corps of Engineers security. We work together as a team. You know what I'm saying? We keep
Hmm.
everybody informed. When you're dealing with all the security and safety measures, you don't know what's going to happen when. So you need to be about yourself. Okay. So I had all the time I was overseas, basically, it's like that. 16 years I spent overseas. Okay. And being in that situation and coming back to the United States, it's like, man, I can take a deep breath. But lo and behold, lo and behold, I didn't, because then I ended up with a toxic supervisor that was on my neck like 24/7. What is this? What did you do? This and that and the other. Okay, and so it was another iteration of all of this. So now I'm having flashbacks about my childhood, about my time in the military, about this everything, and then other things pile up on top. Life don't stop, they keep piling on, keep piling on, and then after that, it's like one straw that breaks the camel's back. Don't
Yeah.
talk to me when I'm under pressure or I am frustrated about something. I'm gonna talk to you later. I'm gonna avoid that conversation because it's not going to be pretty, and you're not gonna like who I am. Okay, so I avoid these conversations, and people are like, why you don't want to talk? I'm like, baby, you don't want to talk to me right now. Trust and believe.
Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, I'm with you on that.
Hmm.
So being out in nature, okay, I'm being more calm. I have not one but two dogs now, okay, because my golden retriever, he was just all by himself. I felt like he was just slowly going down. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get this Great Pyrenees because I've been read anything I'm interested in. I'm gonna find as much information as I can, look at reviews and everything. We do our homework.
Hmm.
Okay, before we go. Okay,
Yeah.
where's our exes at? I'm not going anywhere until I know where the X is at. If it ain't but one X, I'm not going in there. And I'm not going to be sitting with my back to the door because when the bullets come, I'm going to see them. Okay? so,
Oh
so,
boy. Yeah, I
so
get you.
it's hard for me to get out of this military mindset and be authoritative because that's how you move ahead. That's how you get ahead in life. You don't ask, you ask for forgiveness. You don't ask for permission. And most times I'm not going to ask for forgiveness either because what I'm doing, I know is right and I'm going to move forward,
Yeah.
like it or not.
So,
So,
yeah.
so with that all being said, you have various forms of dog assisted therapies. You have, service dogs, you have broader, animal assisted interventions. And some of the interventions, therapeutic interventions would include EMDR or, prolonged exposure therapy along with dog assisted interventions. Can you please talk to me about that?
Absolutely. Some of the, I mean, dogs are amazing creatures, and we also have equine therapy too, right? And one of the really cool things about working with an animal, especially for people who are struggling with a mental health challenge, right? Whether it's PTSD or something else, it's hard. It's difficult for us to get outside of ourselves because we like our bubble shrinks so much when we're in that fear state, right? Like when we flip our lids, right? And this is our reptilian brain, right? This is the frontal cortex. We flip our lids, and then we're living here rather than living in that frontal cortex and being able to sort of make sense of our world. But what happens when we're working with dogs, and whether it's a service dog or whether it's our own pet companion dog, or it's an emotional support type dog, um, we have to be focused on that animal, right? Because nothing is going to work if we're not focused. And I was talking about this yesterday, where the person that's walking down the street and they have the dog pulling them on the leash and they're on the phone. There's no connection there, right?
Right. Right.
And so when we're working with dogs, some of the things that we can do is we can teach the dog specific tasks that support us when we're in a specific state. So, for example, one of the things I taught my dog is if I'm like, I usually do it on my leg, but if I'm scratching on my leg, my dog will come in and nudge my hand away, right? Because she recognizes that that's an anxiety or an anxious type behavior, right? It's not a normal behavior from me, right? I might be fidgeting, I might be, breathing heavily, that type of stuff. My dog will come into my space and interrupt that behavior. So a lot of service dogs, the psychiatric service dogs that a lot of people have for PTSD and anxiety and that type of stuff, that's what they'll be taught. That's one example. Another example would be pressure. right? I've taught my dog, like, I can, whether I'm sitting on a chair or laying on the floor, right? The dog can create pressure on me, right? One way that we do that, we can put a medicine ball in our chest and lay on the floor and work with heavy breathing, and it teaches our body to sort of regulate our breathing system and go back into a parasympathetic nervous system rather than being in the sympathetic fight or flight. So when a dog comes on us, there's not only pressure on our body, but there's also that connection between one being to another, and there's the breathing between the two of us, and we can sort of almost sync that experience. Then there's the oxytocin release and all of that stuff, and it tends to sort of calm somebody down, right? Another thing that's an example that we teach with dogs is the block and cover, right? So if I'm going to be in a line somewhere, let's say I'm at a busy hardware store and I take my dog with me. My dog is not a service dog, but I've trained her with service dog tasks so that when I don't feel comfortable with the person in front of me or the person behind me, I can place my dog in that situation so there's a barrier, right? So there's a block, she's blocking the person in front of me. There's a cover, she's covering the person behind me. As as soldiers, we understand that, right? That's our fire
Yeah.
team partner. That's why my business is called Fire Team Canines. She's my fire team partner, and I've worked with her to develop those tasks. But just like anything else we do with a dog, teaching it how to walk on a loose leash or having it go up, be very calm when people come to the door, all of that stuff. It requires complete focus in on one situation, me and the dog, right? And so that is the process. Like it's the same as when people work with horses. Like that's a big animal. And if they sense our energy is not suitable for the connection between the two of us, they'll move away, right? They'll react to it. Same as a dog, right? My dog, if she's not sensing that we're in the right state, she won't work well with me. So that forces me then to connect with myself and get grounded, so that I can work with my dog in a way that something productive can come out of that.
I love that because my dog sense it too. They like, oh, she's upset right now. We're gonna stay out of her way. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, if they sense it, I think I put myself in check. Okay. And how I put myself in check, I'm always looking in the mirror and I'm taking a deep breath, bringing myself back to the present moment. And one of the things that I love too is the insight timer. That app is amazing. It gives you so many various
Yeah.
things to tap into and having it both for the dogs. I'm walking them separately, and I'm spending a lot of time in nature, and it's just so calming. Okay, I have all these companies right now, all these recruiters, contacted me from Microsoft and Salesforce and all these other companies and say, "We want to hire you." I'm like, I am so thankful and grateful for that. Okay. But I'm not ready because I don't want to go in there toxic. I'm radioactive right now. And I don't want to go in there and if you tick me off about something against one of my principles or my values, I'll tell you, you can take this job and shove it because I'm in a position that I can do that. If I walked
Yeah.
away from $130,000 job, whatever you have to offer is nothing. Okay.
Mhm.
If it's going to bring me chaos or anything that's away from what I'm trying to achieve, then I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't
Mhm.
want it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd rather continue doing what I'm doing. Okay.
I think that's a really important thing too. I've been involved with a variety of different veteran groups over the years, and during COVID, uh, you'll understand why I'm saying this based on what you just said. During COVID, I started a Zoom call, and we had veterans from all over Canada and the U.S. joining in once a week to talk about, just to talk about life, but also to communicate together and the people who had like minds or an understanding of each other's experiences, so that we can actually navigate what was happening during COVID, but also navigate, where we're at in our individual experience of transitioning out of the military, maybe, or leaving from a medical release from something, or being on leave because of one reason or another, or a nurse or a doctor or a respiratory therapist or someone working in the healthcare field during COVID. All of that stuff, we brought it all together, and it was a really neat experience because we all had something different that we brought to the table, but we understood it at a level, right? We all understood it. Like we had corrections officers nurses, we had veterans, we had people that were in special forces. We had it all. And we had amazing conversations. And a lot of the things that came out of these conversations were not only human connection and friendships that happened afterwards, uh, but it's tools. And so one of the guys that actually he continued this process after I stopped with it, and he was always calling it like tools in the toolbox. Like, what tools do you have? And so what you're talking about here is like having the right tools. And one tool you have is I got a pension. I can walk away from this, right? I'm not stuck to this, right? So I need to take care of myself, and that tool is that self advocacy, right? Another tool is nature. We talked about that already, right? That pulling that nature tool out. My wife knows that. I say I got to go for some nature therapy. Like I need to take the dog. I need to go down to the river valley here. I need to sit by the water, and I just need to talk to God, right? And that happens on a regular basis, almost every day here. Another tool would be breathing, right? We talked about that briefly already, and this is why I'm talking about it. In the hospital, I use it every day. We have patients that are coming in for procedures, and they're scared. They don't know what to expect. They might have read it on the internet. They might have watched a video on Google, but they haven't experienced it themselves, and so they're scared because they're scared of the unknown, right? And that's a lot of times what PTSD is too. It's like being afraid of the unknown. I can't control what this outcome is, so I have to create a bubble around me to control it, right? And so I always go to parasympathetic breathing, right? Breathing in through the nose for 2 seconds, hold for 2, and then breathing out for 4 seconds. And people's blood pressure and their heart rates come down, and then they can get their procedure done, and then they say, "Oh, that really wasn't that bad," right?
And another thing too is to question that thought. Is that true? You know what I'm saying? Did I
Yeah.
like really bad? No, it's not true. Okay,
Mm-mm.
this is based on somebody else's.
The work, the
Okay,
work.
yeah, I want to talk to you about COVID because that was a very interesting time. And I seen how the government worked on that situation, and all the healthcare workers were on the front lines, and I see all of them that died as a result of trying to save some people that wasn't able to be saved. Who would save them? And it
Mm.
was just it was just something, okay, and it was so devastating, and we all had to work from home, okay, and that really messed with your mental capacities as well because you're not getting any personal connection with people. Now,
Mhm.
I'm an introvert, and it bothered me after a while, because I can only take people for so long. I'm just gonna be honest. I need a break. Okay, I'll talk to y'all in a minute.
Mhm.
I need to get my mental, thing together here. So, yeah. With that being said, um, yeah, it was uh, it was difficult times for everybody. Okay,
Mhm.
I wish I had had a Substack back then. I could have talked to somebody online. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right. Yeah.
But yeah, and so it was very, very difficult getting getting through that period. A lot of people, okay,
Mhm.
because I was in Israel at the time, and basically they were the pioneers. Okay, they came up with stuff. Then they give it to their people first, and then the United States do their stuff. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do what I need to do. Okay, and so that's what happened. We got through that. Now, is there anything else that you would like to share at this time?
Oh, there's lots of stuff we can share.
Yeah, but you have little time because you have to go to work.
Yeah, I got to go to work. No, you're talking about. So we're talking about COVID. We're talking about PTSD. We're talking about first responders, veterans, all of that stuff. But we're not leaving out the people that, as you alluded to this earlier, right? We're not leaving out the people that have had experiences in their life that don't fit in those categories, right? Maybe
Right.
somebody had a terrible car accident. Maybe somebody was abused as a child. Like there's all of that stuff, and it all fits. The one thing that's important to share and as part of this conversation is that it's a silent, invisible we'll call it an injury, right? Or
Right.
illness that people don't understand. They can't say, like, you look at me, and I'm a guy. I participated in sports all over the country and in the world, and I'm a very healthy guy. But underneath the cover, I struggled for many years. I really struggled. Drugs and alcohol were my numbing systems, right? I treated people poorly. My relationships in my life were awful because I was indifferent to managing and staying inside a relationship because I was afraid to get connected, right? And so a lot of these had built up for a period of time, and I think those are the important things. Like if you see somebody in a wheelchair, if you see somebody walking with a cane or crutches, or they have a prosthetic arm or whatever, then you can sort of understand that this person has an injury. But you see somebody like us who potentially who live with PTSD, who have lived with mental health struggles, um, you don't know, right? And so you don't know their experience, and then you can say like, well, why are you having such a hard time? I remember one day I was in Costco in the middle of COVID. I don't know why I decided to do that. Like, that's for one thing. I was going for groceries, and I just, for whatever reason, decided to go to Costco. That was a mistake. And I saw the chaos that was going on inside of Costco, and there was three elderly women who were trying to get through to get something. And people in the area, they weren't helping. They were blocking her because they had to get in line for the toilet paper, right? And so there was, like, I felt the stress, and I feel like perhaps there's some empath in me, but I felt the stress and worry from these women, like they were trapped. And it just built up. And then I had another experience like that. And I was trying to get through the line, but people wouldn't let me through the line because they were in the line for the toilet paper, right? Like, I was like, I just want to get over here so I can get, so I can get the potatoes, right? And nope, they wouldn't let me through because they were afraid I was going to cut in. And so all of this added up for me. And then it started to get me to feel like, oh my gosh, this is one of those experiences that I've had in the past. And then that everything shut off for me. And I had to take a moment. I ended up in an area. I was I was crying. I was breathing heavy. I had to call my wife. My wife is a psychologist. She calmed me down. She got me to connect with the five senses and the things that are in the environment and all of that. And I'm not embarrassed to share this, right? Like, I had an anxiety attack in Costco, in the heart of COVID, but it wasn't just because of that experience in that moment. It's because of my lived experiences all added up, and they all came to heart in that one space, right? And so if people don't have the support structures, and this is why I'm sharing this, if people don't have the support structures or the tools that they have in the toolbox, what do? They panic. They have the anxiety attack. They lash out in anger. They do whatever it is that they do to cope, right? Whether
Right.
their coping mechanism is a coping mechanism, but it might not be the right thing for them to do, but it is something for them to do. It's like a dog barking at another dog when they're on leash, right? They're barking to get rid of the other dog, right? The dog goes away and everything's okay. So we need to find ways to help and support people to find the right tools, right? And so one of the tools is talking to other people. Another tool is going out in nature. Another tool is breathing. Maybe it's faith, religion. Maybe it's spirituality, reading books, doing yoga, whatever it is. Fitness is a huge one, right? Being active,
Yep. Yep.
finding those tools and just continuing to come back to those tools so that we have the ability to practice the things that we need to practice for the moment that we need to have those skills, right?
Absolutely. I have a similar experience I'd like to share with you. I was in Israel, okay? And you have to be aware about the differences in cultures before you go. Okay?
Right.
I sort of knew, but again, my values and principles are very strong. Okay? You go into a store somewhere, okay? People will run over you. They have a cart, they'll run over your feet. They will, you know, jump you in line, and they won't say excuse me. They won't say thank you, sorry, or nothing. That was my pet peeve. Okay, my pet peeve. So I go in the store and somebody jump in front of me. I was loud. I'm like, no, you not. You gonna get behind me. People look at me. People looking at me like, oh no, you're not gonna. That's a violation. You gonna get back. Okay.
That's the Detroit in you.
Okay. You done met the wrong person. Okay.
Yeah.
They looking at me strange. What the hell is she talking about? I'm like, okay, Margaret, you know where you're at? You're in Israel, and this is a common place. This is what they do. You American, you like you expendable. Okay, why are you here anyway? Okay, because you don't see that many people that look like me over there. So they like, oh yeah, work for the military, so she must be, okay, yeah, all right. They just keep doing what they doing. I'm like, but you're not gonna to cross me. Okay, you're gonna cross somebody else. So I still will do that, but I'll do it a little bit more quietly, but I will still hold my ground, stand my ground. I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. You could be the prime minister. You're not gonna drop me in line. Period. So I have to because when I'm over there, you have to have a security clearance, you have to have a diplomatic passport. And I keep telling myself, okay, Mark, you're a diplomat and you have to show yourself as such. You have to lead by example.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good luck with that. So I'm just going to show you. I go off like that too. So you're not alone. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's true. And we see it everywhere, right? We see it with kids. We see it with, and I talk about dogs all the time. Because I do dog training and I relate all of these things to dogs, right? And people understand it, I think, from that perspective too. And when we see a dog, most often dogs that are people think that they're aggressive. They're actually not aggressive. They're reacting to their environment, which is a perfect example of what people are experiencing with PTSD and operational stress injuries and that type of stuff. The dog is reacting to environment to improve its situation, right? So if there's a Amazon delivery person coming to my door and my dog barks, my dog's barking to say, get off my property. The person walks away and my dog wins, right? Yeah. Or there's another dog coming down the road and the dog bark, lunge, and then growl. And that person and the dog go to the other side of the street. Perfect. Now I can walk down the sidewalk without having to worry about this other dog, right? It's not aggression. It's just oftentimes it's fear, or it's a lack of impulse control, right? And so all of those things play a role for humans with respect to how we deal and manage with our struggles with mental health, right? And we often move to some form of addiction: food, gambling, porn, alcohol, drugs, you name it, whatever. Yeah. Shopping, right? Yeah, all of that stuff. And if we can find, like I said, tools that will support us and people in that situation, then that can help us, right? But understanding is like, navigation, I'm sure, right? You have to, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you're at, right?
So, and you have to know where you've been.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to unpack all of that, right? So you say, okay, well, I'm right here and I was back there. So this is one point that I need to know. This is a point, and I need to get to this place, and I need to navigate through, and you have to take all of that information in to create a map and compass orientation process, or a GPS in this world now, to figure out where you were and where you're going and where you're at, that will help you with it, right? And that's where I think, so because we're on Substack, I think we could talk about, how does Substack play a role in this conversation, right? And I think story is one of the best ways to do it.
Absolutely. I just want to say too, having tours in Iraq and Israel, 2 tours in each place. We can't unsee what we've seen. We can't unhear what we've heard, and we can't undo what we had to do. Okay, and we have to live with that. Okay, and each day we get flashbacks of that, and again, channeling that energy and doing positive things like we're doing here on Substack is a part of my healing, and helping others to heal as well. That's why we're here today.
Yeah. Conversation, communication, connection, all of that stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, I told the story on Substack about my dog Blackie. she ran out when I was 8 years old. She ran out, got hit by a car, and then we couldn't take her to the vet or anything like that. And I lived in the country, so back then what we did is we grabbed the rifle and my father and my uncle shot the dog and buried the dog. But I still remember that. And I was talking yesterday on the live about this. And one of the reasons why I work with people with respect to recall, like recall is such a huge part of what I do with dogs because it's one, it's safety. Two, it's an important piece of communication between you and the dog. But number three is like, I don't want anybody to have the same experience I had, right? I want, like, if your dog gets off the leash and runs away, you should be able to say, "Hey, Fido, come back." And Fido turns around and comes back to you, right? But if you can't, then there's a chance that the dog is going to run away, get hit by a car. It's going to get in a fight with another dog, or it's going to keep going and never come back. So that's why I use what I like story in Substack to tell these stories and catch people emotionally, but also to then help them understand that there's an important piece of the process and we have to build these tools. And it goes with same with the PTSD stuff too, right?
Brother, I am so in awe of you and everything that you do. And I really love you. And because you know what I'm going through. And do you have any resources that you can give people to that where they can go for help?
Well, see, I live in Canada, so,
Oh,
so it'll be different from,
okay.
but
Maybe a place to be there.
yeah. So for like, I mean, in Canada, there's there's the General Canadian Mental Health Association that then has like various different branches of things that are available. A friend of mine actually is one of the lead people in that organization in Western Canada, and what they do is they develop programs that people can go through on their own or with their organization. So they often go to like fire halls, police stations, healthcare places or military groups and that type of stuff. And they put the people through the education so that they have more tools, more understanding of how to use the coping mechanisms, all that. But it's all about education in terms of why these things are happening. And now here's what you do, right? So in Canada, that would be the place to go, is the Canadian Mental Health Association. And then you can funnel through all of the pieces that you can find. But then there's also various different organizations here that, like they're specific to veterans, first responders. Like there's Can Praxis, which does work with horses, right? There's Wounded Warriors Canada. There's Wounded Warriors in the U.S. too. Wounded Warriors Canada, I've worked with them quite a bit. We're raising money every year to, like we did a rucksack march every year. It still happens now. It's all across the country. I'm no longer involved in it, but every year they raise over $100,000 for Wounded Warriors Canada. There's a variety of different groups like that. I looked around on Substack. I didn't really find anything. I just did a quick search, but there's definitely a lot of people talking about it. So if you search PTSD, if you search veteran, if you search first responder, if like those mental health, right, supports, you are going to find people talking about it. And then you just connect with those people. I know that on this call there was a couple people on there that identified, where they're sort of in those communities. So maybe they can provide some resources down there in the chat as well. But sort of in Canada, that's usually how things work. Like there's the one organization that then feeds all of the other ones. But if you're specific to an organization like Wounded Warriors, you're a veteran, a first responder, that's where you go. And you find your supports that way. There's the OSI clinics here in Canada as well, operational stress injury clinics. People go to those as well, and they're veteran groups. And so, yeah, I think that's enough.
Thank you so much. This has been truly a blessing for me and others as well who's suffering with PTSD. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I'm gonna let you go because I know you have to go to work.
Yes,
Thank
I
you
get to go. I get to go bless people in the hospital setting now.
all right so much. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, sister. Good to see you
All right,
again.
you
We'll see
too.
you
All right.
soon.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah.